Welcome back to the Fantasy Trader hosted by Face Off Sports Network. And today we're going to be looking at 5 running backs you need to draft for 2023 fantasy football. And this is not just going to be a list of deep sleepers, but 5 running backs that are the best values, and you need to come away with them in almost all of your drafts. Now, starting off, we're going to be looking at Najee Harris, who has an ADP of RB12 and overall ADP of 37.1 on Underdog Fantasy, which is where all these rankings are going to be coming from. And Najee Harris was a player I hated last year. I had a friend that was so obsessed with him, and Najee obviously wasn't great at all last year. And I loved rubbing in his face as he was aggressively drafting Najee. I felt Najee was one of the easiest fades in fantasy. Part of the reason he was so off last year is he was suffering through a injury for most of the season. He was playing through injury through Week 10, various number of injuries. Weeks 10 through 17, he was the RB8 and averaged 15.3 points per game. Now that is phenomenal, and I really think that even on a bad Steelers offense, having Najee put up these type of numbers just gives you a ton of hope for next year. Now that Najee's had a whole offseason to recover, and the Steelers offense should be so much better with the improvement in Kenny Pickett, hopefully, in year 2, I really like Najee at this RB12 cost. I believe he can at least become a RB8, RB9 range and provide you with some RB1 upside, where he's currently being drafted as a low-end RB1 to high-end RB2. Kenny Pickett was probably one of the worst quarterbacks in the league last year. And it's hard to be a running back if your team is not getting to the red zone, you're down every game, so you have to throw the ball. And yes, Najee Harris is a good pass catcher, but obviously he wants those touches on first and second down, which is going to be extremely hard to come by when you're down by 14 to 21 points every single game. And I think the Steelers can be much better this year and really help out Najee in that area. Now, we talked about it earlier, but Najee was a first-round pick just a year ago, and how much has really changed? Not much, and I would even go as far as to say the situation has gotten better since year 1. Now, Big Ben is, yes, a check-down merchant, and that's why Najee was so much better, but he's really still in the prime of his career. He's stepping into year 3, and he's not an aging running back like these guys, Derrick Henry, Austin Eckler. No, he is in the prime of his career and can really have another elite season just like his rookie year. I've also seen people try and fade him for Jaylen Warren, and it drives me nuts. Yes, Warren was efficient, but this was on such a little number of touches that it's so hard to actually predict Jaylen Warren taking away anything from Najee Harris. I mean, draft capital alone, Harris was the 24th overall pick out of Alabama in the NFL draft, and Jaylen Warren was a UDFA. I mean, what are you really going to do about that? An undrafted free agent is not going to come and take Najee's starting job, and draft capital just tells me that alone. Now, is Najee Harris a phenomenal superstar player, and is Jaylen Warren the worst player in the league? No, probably not. Jaylen Warren might have a role, but Najee is going to be the 3-down bell cow, and anyone that tells you differently is just wrong. J.K. Dobbins is another player I really like this year, and he was an easy fade last year. I mean, going in the 6th round just wasn't great value. He was still recovering from that Achilles injury, but now that he's a year removed from that injury, I really like taking Dobbins. I think he was a great prospect coming out of Ohio State, and has really showed great efficient numbers in the NFL. Now, we have the argument that the Ravens are going to be more pass-heavy this year than ever, but at the same time, I think this can actually offset the issue as J.K. Dobbins is, yes, he might not get as many touches, but Todd Monken historically loves to target his running backs, and Dobbins isn't a great pass catcher, but he saw 24 targets as a rookie, so he can definitely get up there and provide some value in the air. And with that improved offense, that means that there's going to be more trips to the red zone and more scoring. So I really think Dobbins can benefit from that and be a goal line back. Gus Edwards was stealing some cheeky touchdowns. Lamar Jackson is going to continue to do that, which of course hurts Dobbins. But that's why we're drafting him here at RB18 with an ADP of 57.2. I really like this price. I think this is about his floor, and I see his upside going through the roof in this improved Ravens offense. Next on this list, we have Cam Akers, who's going as the RB22 and has an ADP of 71 overall. Now, I really like Cam Akers. I thought he was a great prospect coming out of Florida State, and he was highly touted in the fantasy community his first few years, but unfortunately he tore his Achilles, and that kind of shot his value down quite a bit. The Rams were awful last year. I mean, they were one of the worst teams in the league, and Akers suffered from that. He had issues with Sean McVay. The offense wasn't good. Matthew Stafford was all banged up. No Cooper Kupp. The team was a mess. But the last 4 games, they really gave Akers a good workload, and he was so dominant. He was the RB4 in points per game the last 4 weeks and averaged 19.45 points per game. Now, will Akers continue this for every single week of next season? No, probably not. But this just shows you that Akers has the upside to be an elite running back in fantasy football. And if we're getting him here as a low-end RB2, I'm not really sure what else you can ask for. I think the Rams are going to be better than people give them credit for. Matthew Stafford was a top 5 quarterback in football just a few years ago and won a Super Bowl. And the disrespect people are giving this man because of a injured elbow is ridiculous. Cooper Kupp elevates this offense to a whole new level, and Cam Akers is going to be one of the primary playmakers. Cooper Kupp can't do this by himself, and they need another guy that they can trust in this offense, and having a running back of that caliber is really going to help out. I think Cam Akers is another year removed from his Achilles injury and is ready to dominate in 2023. Now, you may have concerns about what they have at the RB position. And is Cam Akers going to be a bell cow? Yes, he honestly might be. He isn't a huge back, but who else are they going to play? They just signed Sony Michel, but Sony Michel is just not good at football. Michel had 106 rushing yards on 36 attempts last year. If you're telling me you want a running back that puts up these stats, taking away touches from an elite talent like Cam Akers, you have to be out of your mind. It's so hard for me to believe that Sony Michel or Zach Evans or anyone on this Rams offense is going to take away touches from Cam Akers. Now, they probably would have played a few backs to run in between the 20, but that's not going to matter too much. Akers should be receiving every important touch out of this backfield. I really don't see Sony Michel eating into Akers' workload at all. Akers is just a much better player than Michel, and I expect him to be getting every important touch in the Rams offense next year. Next up, we have Rachaad White, who's being drafted as the RB27 with the ADP at 84.8, and I was super excited for him coming this year. Getting him on the waiver wire last year when Fournette was hurt was a phenomenal decision as he balled out in games with no Fournette, which was 2 games. He had 19.9 and 16.5 points. Now, I get it. This isn't a huge sample size, but the bottom line is he's a great pass catcher who really benefits in PPR leagues, and I think that's what most of these leagues are going to be. You know, we have half PPR where it's so important, and a lot of casual leagues are doing full PPR like ESPN and that type of stuff. And Rachaad White is just a very good player overall. He was coming out of ASU and wasn't a very efficient runner his rookie year, but he definitely has a lot of room to improve. And if he can be a much better pass catcher as well as much better runner in year 2, which I expect him to be, I think he can make these steps forward and getting more playing time. Leonard Fournette was eating so much of the work, and when Fournette was not playing, like we talked about before, White thrived. And I hate when people make the argument that, oh, we need to see more out of him. Yeah, I agree. But how can you take away from Rachaad White when there's not much else he can do? Like, he was dominating when he had the chance to be the 3-down back, essentially. The Bucs have one of the worst running back rooms in all of football. Their second RB for context is Chase Edmonds. Now, what is he going to do? Probably nothing. Fournette has 83 vacated targets, which I know is kind of bumped up from Brady checking down and throwing to his running backs a ton. But at the same time, there's target share in this offense, and even though the Bucs are going to be trailing a ton in games this season, I think that can benefit a passing back like Rachaad White, and he can provide value from the pass catching position. Lastly, we have James Conner, who's going as the RB28 with an ADP at 87.3, and I get it. He's an old running back, and they don't have Kyler Murray, which is something most people don't want to be a part of at all. But when doing some research, I was shocked to find out how well James Conner played with no Kyler Murray. Now, drop your best guess what you think his points per game was in the last 4 games with no Kyler. But I was shocked to find out he was averaging 20.13 points per game and had an RB4 finish. Now again, like we talked about, these are small sample sizes, but clearly it doesn't hurt him that bad to the point where he's going to be an RB40. Now I get it. The Cardinals are going to be bad. They're going to be losing a lot of games. They're going to have to throw the ball. Connor isn't a main pass catcher, but at the same time, seeing this production with no Kyler Murray and the team had Colt McCoy just kind of makes me question how far he's going to fall off. I mean, he still had a great season last year, averaging around 15 points per game, and he's going to be the 3-down workhorse back. The team doesn't have anyone else. There is no target competition after DeAndre Hopkins left. I mean, all they have is Marquise Brown, and he's going to be getting almost every important touch on the team. James Conner probably isn't the most exciting pick in fantasy, but I think he can definitely be a low-end RB2 and even give you high-end RB1 upside. If Kyler Murray comes back, wow, James Conner could be one of the best values in the draft. I expect Conner to be a low-end RB2 to even have a low-end RB1 upside at the end of the year. Now, we did talk about that Kyler doesn't kill James Conner's upside, but at the same time, Kyler Murray would obviously be a big help in improving this offense, and we don't even know when he's going to come back. So there's a very real chance that he could come back early on in the year and make James Conner and this offense significantly more valuable. That's going to wrap up my top 5 running backs you need to draft in 2023. And if you enjoyed this video, be sure to like for more fantasy trading room content. I plan to increase these videos to 1 to 2 times a week during the season to go along with the live stream a week. And I'm super excited to be creating content for Face Off and making videos about the 2023 season. I know it's getting so close, but whatever you guys want to see, let me know down below, as we're going to be doing a ton of rankings, guys you need to draft, and just strategy heading into 2023. But once again, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you guys in a new video soon.